So good afternoon, everyone. Absolutely delighted to have this opportunity. And first up, I'd like to really pay a huge thanks to all the team for putting together the TDP. It's clear to everyone in the industry how much work's gone into it. When the first draft came out last year, I have to say I was pretty sad and frustrated that some of the huge opportunities for positive change weren't in it. I have to say, having read the published version last week, I had real hope. Lots of hope, lots of energy, and I'm really excited by the scope of what's now been included, because it does include much more of some of the things we've been working on. For instance, the first draft didn't include really any mention of commuters, and when commuters account for 5% of all UK emissions, was a big miss. And it also didn't include any role for employers, but this version sets out a really clear role for Commute Zero and the need for employers to report on their commuting emissions. Two things which I think will have a dramatic impact on emissions moving forward. Also, the first draft didn't really mention anything about the obvious need to track and increase car and bus occupancy, but this version sets out a really clear goal to increase car occupancy alongside public transport. So to decarbonise transport, it clearly makes sense to target the journeys that emit the most CO2, and with cars accounting for 60% of all surface transport emissions, 82% of car emissions, come from journeys that are over 5 miles long. And those journeys are typically too far to walk or cycle. And very few of these journeys have viable public transport available to them. So although shifting to EVs will help, as a professor said earlier, there's still a lot of CO2 in producing EVs. And by 2035, we'll still only be at about half of the UK fleet being EV. So there's huge work to do, and we haven't got till 2035 or 2040. We've got to start acting right now. So I think we can make much better use of the 47 million empty seats in cars and the millions of empty seats in the buses every day. So the levers that we've got, which are talked about in the plan, it's right that the minister says that a double-decker bus can take 75 cars off the road, but average bus occupancy is currently only 10 people. In fact, that was pre-COVID. So during COVID, it dropped below 10 people per bus, which makes it no more efficient than the average car with 1.6 people in it. So I think it's wrong to set buses against cars. Both can be very efficient, both can be very inefficient. It totally depends on their occupancy. And during COVID, all occupancy fell. But it's worth pointing out that a passenger on a full bus emits typically 30 grams of carbon per kilometre. A full car with 5 people in it also emits 30 grams of carbon per kilometre. It's not about the mode, it's about how we use it. So we need to make sure that this plan focuses very much on increasing occupancy. And as it says, if we can just increase car occupancy from 1.6 to 1.7, we can save 3 million tonnes of CO2. And that's the same as the total emissions currently from the buses in the country. So looking at the other area of the TDP that's really, really important, and that's the role of employers. So, and getting them to measure and report on their commuting emissions. When employers had to measure and report on their energy emissions, that was a large part in driving the energy emissions to drop. And the energy sector has cut its emissions by 60% in recent years. And the transport sector now needs to do the same. Last year, through the work that we're now doing under Mobilityways, we launched a scheme called ACER, which are recognised as being very similar to EPC. And now any company can go to the site and for free get an estimate of their commuting emissions, their total commuting emissions and their average commuting emissions. And clearly, to reduce emissions, we've got to reduce average emissions by 5% or more a year to get down to zero by 2040. In this example just up on the screen now, this was for a recent NHS client. Just 1% of their staff travel by bus to work every day, but 55% have a viable bus option. 10% of their staff shared cars to work, but 95% could have done. 4% were cycling, 39% could have done. There is huge latent capacity. Before we get to the EV need, there's a huge latent capacity to shift people to more sustainable modes right now. And that is all around behavior change, marketing, and engaging with our audience. So my challenge to the TDP team, to the ministers, and to everyone really is, how low can we go and how fast can we get there? Thank you.